I know today this video is going to be a little bit different than what I normally post on my channel, but it's something that's been affecting me ever since my early 20s, and I wanted to really kind of talk about it and shed light on this situation. Today I found out that ITT is going out of business. I'm talking about ITT Tech, the college. I went there for 2 years to get my associate's degree in multimedia, and I made a video about it on my channel that I actually have up here on my screen. I'll put a link to it somewhere around here in one of those cards. You can click on it to watch it. But years ago, probably over 10 years ago, let's see. Yeah, so this was posted in 2006. So this was about 10 years ago. I had a hard time in high school, obviously, because of my piercings and the fact that I dressed differently than most of the people that went there. But that was never really that big of a deal. I learned how to put up with it. People thought that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do in college and that I wasn't doing my work, which is why I got an F on one of my classes. Now, the reality of what happened was I went there and most of the instructors had no idea how to teach the courses that they were set to teach. The main reason why I went to the college was because I wanted to learn how to animate. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of resources online that you can just go on and watch tutorials like you can today on YouTube. And it was just kind of something that was just starting out where people were doing tutorials, so it was very scarce. And I ended up deciding, okay, well, college maybe will help me get a degree in animation, and if I go in for multimedia, maybe they'll be able to help me out. The guidance counselors talked to me for hours and sold me on the whole idea, said that, you know, you could go and find a job like immediately after you leave college, and they even had people coming to the schools all the time, like looking for talent. So I thought this was the greatest idea ever, and I decided it would be great for me to go to college. So during financing, they kind of told me that I was going to be getting probably about half of it up front paid by the government, and then the other half would come out from loans, and I was totally okay with that. I didn't understand contracts at the time. I didn't really fully read through it, and I wanted to get into college. I knew it would make my mom happy, so I thought, why not? Let's just go into it and see what happens. Halfway through my first year there, I realized that no one knew what the hell they were doing. There were times where they would put me in charge of teaching the students how to do things that I had already had experience with, like Photoshop and some other software with graphic design. When it came to the web design courses, I passed all of my tests and final projects within the first day of class. I made sure that I submitted everything that I knew how to do right away. My main goal there was to learn how to animate, not to sit there and try to figure out how to do Photoshop or web design. I already knew how to do that stuff. I just needed a degree to prove that I knew that kind of stuff. So that's also around the time that my band, Dead Star Assembly, started taking off, and we started going on tour a lot. And of course, touring was more important to me at the time than college, because I figured if I could make it in the music industry, I wouldn't need my college degree anymore. And in the meantime, I was leaving for months at a time, which I knew were against the rules of the college. But as long as I turned in my assignments ahead of time, I didn't think it would be a big problem, because I was doing all the assignments, I was making sure they were all taken care of. According to the rules, if you were gone for that many days, they were supposed to kick you out. So what happened was they started figuring out that if they kept the students on the books, they could make more money from all of the student loans coming in every few months. So every time there's a semester, there's a new loan. And I'll explain why I'm talking about that in a minute. For every semester that I missed, they still said that I was there so that they could get the money, but that was okay, because legitimately I was turning in my assignments and I wanted to stay in the school so I could get my degree. But the issue were with students who were just not showing up because they didn't feel like it, or they didn't enjoy being there, and they didn't really care. So those type of people are the people who should have been kicked out, but the school kept them on and lied about their grades, lied about the work that they were turning in to try to make it seem like they were passing so that they didn't have to kick them out and stop receiving the funds for student loans. So at the end of the day, I got really upset about it. I started videotaping other students, which I'll show you guys in a minute. Everyone there knew that this was a problem, and there were times where the government even came in. There were federal agents who came in and questioned students because they were wondering if this whole changing of grades thing was a problem or not, and there have been multiple ITTs that have been found to do this and have gotten in trouble and gotten sued, and ultimately they end up paying everybody to just shut up and not talk about it. Brings me back again to that video that I posted. A lot of people thought that I wasn't just doing my work. I wrote it in the description so that people understood exactly what the problem was. And now what? Look, 10 years later, all of this information is coming out that I was right. And I've been telling so many people, college isn't really that important. I believe that parents are really just pushing this college issue on kids for different reasons, because sure, there are some colleges that are definitely necessary. Like, for example, if you want to go into like the medical field or something like that, I feel like you should have to go to college to learn everything there is to know about that field. But there are some fields nowadays that you don't need to go to college for. You can just go online and learn what you need to learn, but you have to have the motivation and the responsibility to actually go on and watch the tutorials and do the tests and do everything you're supposed to do so you can actually learn. The people who really do want to learn do. I mean, look at how many people are in the art field today and they're self-taught. This is because we live in a world today where you can find out all the information about what you want to do on the internet, and there's so many people creating jobs from things that you could have never done before. Like, for example, you've got all these people making YouTube videos and they're making money off of it, and they're able to buy houses and cars and whatever else they need just simply from that. You don't have to go to college. There are other ways, but if you're going into one of those fields, I understand. But when it comes to a school like ITT that they lie and they bullshit the students around, now look at what happens. You get stuck with student loans that you have to pay. On my credit report, you see every single semester as a different loan. So it looks like I took out like 20 different loans of like $5,000 to $10,000 at a time, whatever it ended up coming out to for those months. And creditors look at that as if you just went out and went crazy and took out a bunch of loans and didn't pay them. But in reality, it's because I didn't learn anything from the school. I never got my education. And they told me right away, if you want to come back to school and retake the courses in a few years when we can find the proper instructors, we'll let you come back and you can take the course for free. So that's why I stayed on and made sure that I got my degree, because I figured at least I'll have the paper that proves I know what I know. I can learn animation on my own time, and then I'll at least have a piece of paper that says I really do know it and that I went to college for it. And a few years later, I decided to call back to college, and I wanted to take the course and said maybe they'll have some instructors now that know what they're doing. And they said that they dropped the course and that there was nothing that I could do to retake the course. So why am I going to pay back, you know, a $40,000 plus loan for something I never learned? I mean, I was teaching half the classes and helping out students, and the teachers had no idea what they were doing. But now I'm expected to pay back all this money for something that I didn't really learn. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do at this point. All I know is that if I really want to take care of it, I probably got to hire a lawyer. And there are tons of class action lawsuits that have been out there. I've tried to jump on a few of them, but I don't have all my information. This was 10 years ago. I don't have everything documented, but what I do have is, you know, proof that other students and other teachers were saying that these were problems in the school. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think about these type of colleges and what they're doing to people? Let me know in the comments below. I'm interested to see what everybody else has to say. So, what is your name and what were you attending ITT for?
My name is Clayton Schock, and I was attending ITT for multimedia design.
When you signed up for ITT, was there anything that was misunderstood or not well explained by your recruiters that you questioned today? For example, when I signed up to ITT, they explained to me how the classes were going to be, what I was going to learn, and I still question that today because I didn't really learn everything they told me I was going to learn, and everything they explained to me by financial aid wasn't really true. I had the misconception that I only had to pay back like $5,000 because the rest were government grants, and they didn't explain to me that I was going to still owe on all that. Right. And now I'm ending up owing on everything.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't understand when I signed up what exactly the classes were going to be. I was told that they were going to center around certain things that never was really taught, that certain programs were going to be used that we never touched in class, that the computer system, you know, the latest and greatest in technology and programs that wasn't available at the school. Financial aid didn't explain anything to me at all regarding what payment was going to be like. I was told it was going to have to pay $50 a month for God knows how long, and it ended up being something. When I talked to the people at Sallie Mae, they told me I was going to owe like $450 a month.
So when the recruiters explained to you that you were only going to pay like around $50 a month for your payments on Sallie Mae, and they ended up telling you otherwise when you found out after you graduated?
Yes. Yeah.
And what was some of like the software that they told you were going to learn that you didn't end up learning?
Well, they were saying that they had the most up-to-date versions of Photoshop and 3D Max and those programs. They were 3 or 4 versions behind, and we were told that Maya was going to be in the curriculum. There was no Maya 3D in the curriculum whatsoever.
Did that really affect you from learning the actual software though? Like them not having the most up-to-date stuff?
It affected not so much learning the software, but not being able to actually, use anything in the real world, because the companies out there use whatever's the newest version of the software.
What did you like the most about ITT though? Was there anything in particular about the courses or about the way the school was run that you liked?
Not particularly.
What did you dislike the most about it? Like, what were some of the key things that really bothered you about going to that school?
One specific instance that I can think of to give an example of something like that, what would have bothered me about going to the school was teaching that when we had the premiere class, the teacher that they gave us was supposed to be, he told us he was an advertiser, which in reality he was a networking guy. He had no idea how to use the Premiere program whatsoever. He was actually learning it from another teacher while teaching us. They eventually had to remove him from the class because the students were complaining that he didn't know what he was doing.
What else did you dislike about the school?
Just the way things were run. There was never, I know certain students, they would fail a class and they'd start to cry and whine and moan and they'd get a D.
So you think that some of the students were given grades not according to what work they did, but according to like what the teacher felt they should proceed?
Not so much that, but more that if they were upset with their grade, in order to keep them coming back to school, they'd pass them just to get more money out of them. Or students that didn't learn anything, that never did any of the work, just kind of sat there and did nothing, and they still passed the class, still graduated.
How did you feel about the inner drama with ITT staff? I know that you were there to listen to a lot of the crap that I had to listen to.
The drama with the staff was one of the most ridiculous things and unprofessional things I think I've ever seen in my life. I mean, there was one specific teacher that there seemed to be a grudge against because he was just a little unorthodox in his methods, and they eventually fired him for reasons that are still speculated on by different people, but there was a constant trash talk amongst certain people about what he was doing, that he was having relations with students to get them passing. I mean, it was just...
Well, what about like, I know a lot of teachers would talk about like the administrators, and then the administrators would say certain things about certain teachers, and a lot of the instructors were coming and going in the middle of like all the semesters. Like a teacher would just leave in the middle of the semester and somebody new would come in. So how do you feel about that? Like,
it disrupts the learning process. I mean, you have someone teaching a class and then all of a sudden they're gone, someone new comes in, they don't know where you're at, what you do know and what you don't know, and they try and teach you, and they've got to basically start the class from the beginning to show you things that maybe the other teacher skipped over because he didn't see it as being necessary or part of what was coming up later.
what did you expect from ITT before signing up? When you first thought, hey, I'm gonna go check out this school, what it's all about, like what did you expect them to offer you?
I expected a lot more than what was there. I mean, I expected to have a learning environment that had, like I said earlier, the latest and greatest in computers and software. I expected them to, work with the students to get them careers after graduation, get them into actual, a job in the field that they were going to school for, which none of that ever happened.
What did you really expect to happen after you left ITT?
I expected to be able to find a job in the graphic design field, making at least a decent amount of money, not anything horribly high, but something where I could support myself. I expected career services to help find me a job like they had promised they would in the beginning when I signed up. They had like a portfolio book with a bunch of DVDs in it that they were going to keep and take to employers and show them our portfolios, and we'd get job interviews based on if they liked our work or not. None of them, they never called me to tell me they took my portfolio to any employer. They never said, I never got any calls from employers regarding that specific circumstance. I went to actually go pick up my portfolio because I was going to change a couple things on it and redo some things and add a couple different images and stuff, and they didn't have it. They said they had lost it and didn't know where it was.
Did you actually go out and look for certain jobs in graphic design field or anything in the multimedia field?
I'm still looking. I'm still out there looking for jobs in the field, but no one seems to really care.
What exactly are you doing? How are you looking for jobs, or where are you applying?
I've been on, websites like jobbing.com, monster.com, the Sun Sentinel, careerbuilder.com, the newspaper, driving by looking. If I see a graphic design place, I'll remember where it is and go stop in later and say, hey, you guys looking for people? I've friends that have contacts in certain places. I've talked to them. And
have you gotten interviews in any of these jobs that you've applied for? Have you actually gone in and done any interviews?
Yeah, I've had interviews. Most of the jobs seem to be based around web design, which was something that we were told we were going to be taught, but ended up being only taught the very, very basics, not enough to actually hold a job in that field. The interviews usually they sit down, they ask me, the standard interview questions, and I've been called back for second interviews. They're kind of like a 2-hour long working interview to see if I actually know what I'm doing. They tell me I know enough, but not enough for the job, to go and learn a little bit more. I've had them actually laugh at me when I told them I went to ITT.
Did any of these employers actually ask you for your degree?
Not once did they ever ask for the degree. Every time I've ever said anything about it, they've pretty much told me that it was either degree wasn't necessary in the field as long as you knew how to do the work, or when they did ask about it, I had one or two ask about it, and when I mentioned that it was ITT, I kind of was laughed at.
So that was freaking fun, wasn't it? Man, it's so funny to watch this video back because I really haven't watched it since the day that I videotaped it. And I was gonna use that in case I ever had to go to court, but looking back at it and seeing Clay's face is pretty funny because you could just see the look of disappointment in his face. And it's funny to look back at now, but it's a really shitty situation that most of us are still stuck in. And when this place goes out of business, what are we supposed to do? Everyone's just stuck with their student loans for classes that they never even learned anything in. See, I'm the type of person who, even though it didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to work out, I still took the time to go online and learn the stuff that I wanted to learn. I didn't feel like college was the last place that I had to go just to get this career. I figured if I want to learn what I want to do, whether it's graphic design, video editing, anything, photography, it was all going to boil down to me learning it on my own. Whether it was asking friends who had advice, or going online or reading books, whatever I had to do just to learn. And most of the people don't do that. Most of the people expect that if they're going to pay the money, they're going to go to the college and they're going to learn what they paid for. So look, at the end of the day, I don't like bashing companies, I don't like talking bad about people, and that's definitely not where I'm going to take this channel. I don't think it's okay to spread negativity, but at the same time, there are so many people in the same position that I'm in that I feel like I need to say something, I need to do something about it, because there's got to be some way that we can get the help that we need to get out of this situation. What they did to us is pretty messed up. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it.